Hi, and welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senaparatna. Grab your favorite drink and a snack, and we'll get started. Today I've got some English breakfast tea and some puffed corn because I'm saving my jelly beans, trying not to eat a lot of those. So let's get real. I'd like to start off today in Isaiah 43:18 and 19. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the desert, streams in the wasteland. This weekend, past weekend, was maybe one of my lowest points. A lot of things hit me all at once. There's so many pieces happening in the world right now that you can just get overwhelmed by life in general. I mean, go on social media and you're just going to be pretty close to a nervous breakdown with all the different people yelling at one another. And if that is your main source of socialization or quote unquote socialization, you didn't see my air quotes when I did that. If that's your main source, it can get really overwhelming. Or even if one of the local news channels is one of your main source, they do not have one thing. And that one thing is hope. Hope is something that I've been thinking a lot about, and God's kind of given me a couple really strange ideas about hope. So I'm going to share those with you today and kind of let's just walk through what's going on. So I got my last paycheck from my job last week, and now you're going, okay, now what do we do? We decided to take a step of faith as a family. I've kind of talked about that a little bit before. My husband and I have wanted to do ministry together for most of our marriage, and it just has never worked out because I've had a job or he's had a job, and we just really feel like this is the next step for us, that we need to do full-time ministry together. But fortunately, when you have your own ministry and you're not, you're definitely supportive on God, and God moving people to support the ministry and see what you're doing and step beside you and partner with you, and churches partner with you. But it is a very hard process and a huge step of faith that, like I said, God dried up the river and now I'm moving into my miracle. And so that's kind of where we are. And this weekend I just went, Lord, are you actually going to do this? I really like to feed my family, and I really like Netflix, but I have gotten rid of part of Netflix. Anyway, that's not beside the point. But I really love, forget the former things, do not dwell in the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. I'm making a way in the desert and streams in the wasteland. God did not say, hey, Jenny, or hey, person listening to this podcast, look at the past and dwell in that. He's saying, I've done something before, but we're not going to dwell on that. We're going to dwell on, I'm doing a new thing. And so what God gave me is, my husband and I are huge puzzle people. Well, so is my daughter, but we love puzzles, kind of obsessed. We got rid of our dining room table where you eat dinner together as a family. I know it's weird, and made it into a puzzle table. Moved it down into our living room. It's been there for almost 2 years. It always constantly has a puzzle on it. When we're stressed, you'll find one of us standing behind the puzzle table, putting a puzzle together. It's a very inexpensive way to have family fun, I guess. It was a huge trend at the beginning of this quarantine thing. You couldn't get a puzzle to save your life, and fortunately, we had some stored up, so we were fine. But puzzles really kind of will share a little bit about hope, because hope is, a cherished desire with anticipation is what the Webster Dictionary, I know I pulled out the Webster Dictionary, people. Come on now. Woo! a cherished desire with anticipation. And so I was thinking about hope, and really we hope that it will rain, or we hope that our Amazon package will come in the mail with jelly beans, or we hope that the dog hasn't eaten several of our puzzle pieces, because he does really like to do that. But really, hope is something as a Christian that goes beyond a maybe more of a spiritual thing. So God gave me an acronym. I know I'm in the Webster Dictionary, and now an acronym. We're going a little crazy here, people. But the acronym for hope that he gave me was Holy Optimistic Perspective with Anticipation. With expectation. Not anticipation, expectation, because hope is spelled with an E. And really, hope is based on, as a Christian, my hope is based on the Lord. And my hope is based on what I know he wants to do and what he tells me in the Bible. And my hope is found in the Word of God. My hope is not found on social media, because I would be in the depths of despair. Yes, the depths of despair. If my hope was from what's in this world. My hope is holy. It is set apart. It is, that's what holy means. Set apart for the Lord. Not desecrated, consecrated. Oh my. Worthy of complete devotion. My hope is holy. It is in the Lord. My hope is optimistic. My hope is not, we'll see. I don't know. I sure hope so. Oh man. Yuck. We have all heard the story of half glass full, half glass empty. I really work very, very hard at being a half glass full person. I try to look at life half glass full, but really my tendency, my core, who I am, the way I was raised was half glass full, half empty, leaking, very little left. We're all going to die. That is the way that we kind of functioned as a family. And, just that is so ingrained in so many people that it's really hard to be optimistic. And it's really hard to see the positive side of something. And hope really is seeing the positive and setting aside the past and going, that paycheck was in the past. That paycheck was something that I no longer need to depend on, because God's got something better for me. Come on now, Lord. Perspective, the P. Shifting what you're focusing on. Shifting how you're thinking about life. Putting your hope in the Lord. Having a different perspective. Going to the Bible and reading some of the Bible verses that are in there are just amazing. God is the only one who can make a valley of trouble a door of hope. Oh my goodness. God is the only one who can make a valley of trouble a door of hope. Hope will not disappoint. Guide me in your truth. Teach me. You are my God, my Savior, my hope. In you I have all day long. The Lord will fight for you. It's a different perspective when you know that you have someone behind you fighting. It's a different perspective like this. Okay, so this is going to be a little odd, but it's a different thing when you get a puzzle from a thrift store, which I love to do because they're very cheap. But when you get that puzzle, unless it's sealed and not opened, there are going to be pieces missing. And you just know, that's your perspective. You bought a puzzle and there's going to be pieces missing, or there's going to be pieces chewed on by a dog, because that's what we have. If you buy one from a store, or some of my favorite, I'm not going to mention my favorite puzzles, but you know that the full picture is there. And as a woman who knows that God is in charge and is fighting for me, my perspective of hope is that all my pieces are there. All of the pieces are there to be put together because God has a masterpiece, and it's called my life. Does that make sense? I hope so. An expectation. Hope is really like you do have that expectation. Like, oh, I know God's up for something. What is it going to be? It's that kid at Christmas time that sees a big box with the bow. And when you know where your hope comes from, and it's a holy hope, you know that what's inside is what you need. And in life, without God, you don't know what's going to come. And yes, bad things come when you believe in God. They just do. Life is not easy. Life is really tough. We're learning that as a society right now. It kind of feels like everything's crumbling. You know, the joke is, what's next? You know, can anything get worse? It can get worse. So we're not given a perfect life, but we are given hope, and we are given that the Lord is fighting with us and for us, and He's standing beside us. So what is connected with this in my mind is something that may be a little bizarre to you, but you know what? This is Real Life with Jenny, so you're going to get my real weird thoughts and kind of where my brain goes. My brain goes to Noah, and not necessarily to Noah, because, you know, I was reading it again this morning, and it says, this is the summary according to Noah. And I thought, well, yeah, if I'm writing about myself, I'm 5'5", I'm 110 pounds, I've got beautiful long blonde hair. None of those are true, by the way. I mean, your perspective sometimes, and I know he was a holy man, so he was telling the truth, but he does not talk about his wife. He talks about his adventure and what happens with his boys. And of course, I'm like, well, what about the wife, right? I mean, come on now, why is she being set aside? It doesn't really matter. So I have come up with this idea of what it was like to be his wife. And so we're going to dive into that. Like I've said many times, I'm married to an amazing man. He is just a great example of what a man of God should be. I mean, he is so just authentic on when he's speaking and when he's praying. He's the same at home. And that can be extremely intimidating. And so I kind of feel like Noah's wife and I have a lot in common, because quite often I'm just known as Kevin's wife. So I will go somewhere and they'll be like, oh, are you Kevin's wife? Yep, that's me. Oh, you must be amazing. It is pretty amazing. He's an amazing guy. So I feel a little bit like I really fit with her. And so I'm guessing he comes home and he's heard from God, and God has told him to build an ark. And if she's anything like me, she was like, yeah, go ahead, honey. God told you to do it. I'm going to stand beside you. I will hand you the nails. Let's do this. And then real life happened. And I don't know that this is in the Bible. I think it is, but heresy or not, I hope that you get my picture. People started making fun of them. That was what I was taught in Sunday school. So people started making fun of them. Her friends and her extended family would have been like, why are you letting this loon do this? Like, we don't need this big of a boat. And she'd be like, but God told him, so I'm standing behind him. And then you're kind of like, I wish God would have told me. It would have been nice for him to tell me too, as he's kind of out there doing this stuff. And you're like, Lord, what's the point of this? And then he says, okay, honey, we're going to collect animals. And I would have been like, yeah, we are. Let's get some kangaroos. Those are really cute. And let's get some dogs. And, I love raccoons as long as they, are tranquilized. And, okay, they didn't have that. Anyway. yeah, that would be super fun. And he was like, no, honey, I'm sorry. Yes, we're getting those, but I mean every animal. And what? What do you mean every animal? Are you sure the Lord said every animal? Are you sure that he meant spiders? Did you ask him specifically about spiders? Should I ask him about spiders? Because I think that is a sketchy mistake to keep on the earth. Okay, I'm not a spider fan. Please don't show me spiders. I don't enjoy spiders. Or crocodiles. I don't enjoy those either, even though I wanted to get them all saved as a kid. That's beside the point. I would have been all for it until he would have started talking about kind of the scarier animals. Now, many of you are like, scary animals. Well, if I said snakes to my daughter, we would have her Scooby-Dooing on out of the ark. She would have been like, no way, Jose. I'm not going to stay in the same space that the spiders are. But she kept going, obviously. So she gets on the boat, and I'm just going to stop here. Quite often, when you are living a life after the Lord, it gets interesting, and people don't always understand why you're taking the steps that you're taking, why you're going, Lord, I am believing that I can be full-time in ministry with my husband, and I believe that you can bring the financial support behind us to do this. And people that love you and people that don't like you are like, are you sure this is a good idea? Should you really be putting all these animals on the ark? Is this really a good plan? So she gets on the ark with her husband and her 3 boys and their wives, and it starts to rain. Now, that would have been cool because I love rain. Yesterday it rained, and it was just we opened the windows so I could look outside and just watch the rain fall, and I wanted to go play in it. I didn't, but I really wanted to, like a little kid, and go pick up the worms out of the, and put them back in the grass. And anyway, I'm an odd person. It's okay. I think that would have been really fun until about day 3, and then day 15, and then day 20, and it's still raining. And all of a sudden the trees are covered, and then the hills are covered, and then the mountaintops are covered, and now you're just floating and all you can see is water, and it's still raining. It's still raining. It's 40 days and 40 nights of rain. There's sometimes too much of a good thing, and you look around and the spiders have now made webs, and they're having babies. And the animals are having babies, and you're looking around going, Lord, is this really your plan? And really all she had right there is hope in the Lord, holy, optimistic perspective, with anticipation or expectation that God had something bigger than those 40 days in that ark. Now, what's interesting to me is in Sunday school, or when you're a little kid and you're learning this story, that's kind of where it stops. I mean, they send off the dove and you come back. But really, that's not where her story ends. Her story is just beginning when the water stops, when the rain stops. They still have a year on that boat. A lot happens in a year. You become a very different person in a year. Things can change. She is there with her sons and her daughter-in-laws, and I'm guessing there might have been a couple fights. I don't know. Probably they were better people than that. If it would have been me, I'm sure there would have been some fights. The animals would have gotten restless, or they would have had to help with certain animals giving birth. I mean, just the amount of things that could have gone on in that year, that you sit there going, it wasn't 40 days and 40 nights. It was an entire year of being in the depths of despair. And the only thing you have is hope that the Lord has a bigger plan for your life. So I just want to tell you right now, as we're kind of walking through this COVID and all the pieces that are happening in our society, they may not be fixed right away, but we need to keep our eyes and our hope on the Lord, and that He's got a bigger plan than what we're living through right now. Whether you are in a situation where you've lost your job like me, or you and your husband or wife, there just doesn't seem to be any hope. Your hope is not in that person. Your hope is holy hope. Your hope is in the Lord, and that He's got a plan. Whether that marriage stays together or not, God's still got a plan for you, and He is holding on to you. Okay, I sidetracked from Noah's wife, but now they get off the boat. Okay, like, could you even imagine the day that you get off of the smelly, gross boat and all the animals come shooing out? Like, I could not even imagine the glee and the excitement and the rainbow shows up and the Lord promises you He'll never destroy the earth in that way again. And like, you just go, wow, this is amazing. Like, yes, Lord, you've brought me to where I thought I'd be. And you look around and you realize we're alone. There's everything that's left was in that boat. There's nothing left. Everything has to start over. And I think that that's so interesting, because so often we think that God's going to come down and be like, hey, Jenny, here's a job. You were walking around the block for one of your daily walks, and a neighbor that's a multimillionaire. I live in a trailer court. There might be a couple multimillionaires, but I doubt it. Comes out of his home and says, you know what? I've been watching you walk every day, and I would like to give you $1 million to come work for me because of your dedication in walking. Like, it just doesn't happen. I mean, is this not going to happen? I mean, I can't shut down God. Maybe something like that could happen. I don't know. Who knows? But, you know, you get to the place that you think you're supposed to be, and it's not always going to be perfect. You're going to still have all the pieces around the puzzle, all scattered, not really sure where to put them all. You know all the pieces are there because it's from the Lord, but all the pieces are scattered and you're not really sure which one goes where. And it's a tedious, hopeful task to put a puzzle together and to live life. And my prayer for you as you're listening to this is that you're not going, oh, well, now I'm in the depths of despair. Thanks, Jen. I wasn't feeling in the depths of despair. But the Lord blessed Noah's family and his wife, and they filled the entire earth again. And they were able to be an instrument of God that changed the way the world was at that time. And because of their obedience and stepping out in faith, they saved the spiders, and they saved the kangaroos, and they saved the elephants. I could go on and on about all my favorite animals, but I think that's huge. And I really pray that you remember that when your hope is wholly optimistic perspective, with an expectation that God will continue to move in your life, and that God is standing behind you with the plan, and that He bought the puzzle, and it's a perfect masterpiece. It's not from the thrift store. There are not pieces missing. There's not pieces chewed. Even though after a while in life you're going to have pieces chewed, it's going to be a perfect masterpiece once you can fit all those pieces together. And God may give you one piece, two pieces at a time, but you need to keep your hope in the Lord. That's all I have to say today. I really hope that you were encouraged and know that my life is not perfect, your life is not perfect, but God's plan is a puzzle and is a masterpiece waiting to be made. So I would really love if you would connect with me. You can send me a message on Real Life with Jenny on Facebook. I would love to pray with you if there are things that you really need more hope. There's a struggle that's going on in your life. I would love to stand beside you and pray. You can find me at christconnection.cc/Jen. That's where all of my information, my story is there. You can kind of find a little bit about me and share this with someone. I am not on here because I've got wisdom. I'm just on here because really real life is hard. And I just pray that this hits you where you need it to be. Have a great day. And I'm going to finish with this. Yes, my soul find rest in God. My hope comes from Him. Psalm 62:5.